Okay, so I know I can't see you guys, and I have to just go and play it by ear. Um, and great, and thanks for coming to my workshop about community relations, communities based marketing, or community based marketing. And today we're going to talk about the biggest problem. And I think one of the biggest problems people have is how do you prove the value of community? Let's see if I can try and play with it and see in the same time while I chat who ever had to prove the value of community. Okay, great. Anybody wants to answer? Had proved the value of community. Let's see if we can get some engagement here that we all love. 100%. Great. Thank you, Aaron. Okay. So I can tell you it was my problem for a long time. And more than my problem, it was something that I would come to customers. And in my first year, I had pitched about 25 customers, potential customers, and many of them approached me. Many of them came to me and said, we want a community. I said, no problem. And here's a program. And here we build a community, which is a whole different workshop. And then they said, okay, but what's the value of community? And I really tried to show it to them. But then they're like, nah, we don't get it. Like, and we can't really get them to pitch in. We don't really get them to get community. So in their own communities, many times, they feel the value. But then they become very skeptic about the value for their organization. As a business organization, it's very hard for them to trust because they want to see immediate value. And when we build a community, we ask them to start and invest in others and trust us that they're going to see a return very far in. So it feels really great. It's like it's written here. Okay, it feels so good to say yes. Everybody wants a community and everybody's talking about it, and it's such a buzzword. But when you have to get them to pitch in, it's really, really hard. So you can do two things, and we'll talk about it also in the end. You can say, oh, nobody gets me, and I'll just keep on pitching. Or you can say, maybe I can do things differently. Maybe I can build my trust with them. Like with your communities, that you start a space and you slowly create value and slowly you gather a following and people start to trust you. Same thing when you start trying to work with your customers, or a customer can be also your senior executive or somebody in your company, because you don't have to be a community professional that's dedicated for community to build communities. You can do it on your own time. You can do it as a side job when you start in an organization. There's many different people that start a community. If you already come from a community position, you don't need the buy-in. It's probably they decide that they're investing in your salary. But here I'm talking to all those freelancers, to all those people within the organizations who want to build a community, who need to create that buy-in. And CR is exactly how I think you guys can really start building that trust and building that value for your organization and getting them to pitch in and really give you the time, the resources for you to start in building a community. So let's talk about what CR. CR is actually the junction between PR, which is like, where do we publish things? How do we get the right connections? How do we find the right places that we want to other people talk about what we're doing? About organic marketing, which is not paying somebody, but it can be sometimes, but organic marketing, which is we create content, we create inbound marketing, we have a brand, we have what we stand for, our identity, and start creating interest in what we're doing. And against what we call target marketing. Some reason it was lost here, but targeted marketing, which is spot on audience. So when we want to get and we start taking our different audiences and tagging them and finding them as the people that we know we need to tag and sector them, and we say, okay, we just want to pinpoint these audiences, and we do it many times in in paid campaigns. Communities has done it for us. Communities have cluttered together already different people, but with same common goals. And according to those common goals, sometimes your value as a business can be something that should curate to their needs. So why not interact with them? Why not find a way to engage with them within their communities and within their areas and different spaces that they collaborate and talk in? So what are we going to talk in this talk? We're going to talk about the CR process. We're going to go over an overview of what's CR. Okay, how we do the process from start to end, but in a very, very, very high level. Usually we do this workshop for about 8 hours, In the end, I'm gonna also we'll send you maybe once you download the link that we're going to give you soon, the ability to join for almost a 80% off workshop to do the full workshop and learn what's the CR process in its full. But we'll really try to give you the high level view that if you want, you can really start doing it on your own, and that's the goal, to start you kicking off, jumping yourself into the water, into the deep end, and maybe start doing it on your own. Then we're going to talk about the utility model. The utility model is a method we started to evaluate communities, to evaluate the value of communities for its members, and it has all kinds of nuances in itself. We're going to talk about engaging communities. Engagement is one thing, but engagement in communities, I think, is a different the crowd or one-on-one. It's different than when you come and join a community. We're going to talk about 3 different things that you need to remember when you engage communities in a very, again, we're going to talk in a higher level, but we're going to do an exercise on every part of this workshop. And in the end, we're going to summarize with CR ethics. Just on the tip of the tongue, we're going to talk about it because it's a very, very delicate issue, the idea of CR. I'm going to explain why in the end. So let's just jump in and go forward. Before I move forward, let's see if you have any questions or something. I love to be engaged with you guys. Okay, Philip's looking forward to hear you, Mike. Great. Wow. Yep. Great. Let's go on. Okay, so let's talk about the CR process. Okay, so the CR process, building community relations. First of all, who do you want to build relations for? Which is the basic part of building the relations. You have to target who do you want. But the thing is, there's so many communities out there. If I'm correct, just last week, Facebook released that they have about 1.8 people engaged in communities. I don't remember, but it's probably close to 100 million people that are part. There's 100 million communities, and everybody has at least 6 communities. And how do you choose which communities? And Facebook isn't the only place that has communities, of course. We have LinkedIn. We have spaces that have in vanilla forums and all kinds of specific communities led by brands and used by Mighty Networks and Mobilize. And also we have communities on LinkedIn, which is actually catching speed. We see LinkedIn really growing the last year. And actually next month, we're going to have on our stage Tomer Cohen, the VP of product on LinkedIn, which is very interesting stuff. But then when you start ranking, it's just you do it more or less about intuition and about the data that the community gives you. Only when you start engaging within the community, you can really understand the community and evaluate it. And that's when we start the real ranking, the higher level or the more accurate ranking according to the utility model, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the last part is evaluate. We engage the community. We saw, okay, so on the surface, it looks like it's a great community. It's a big community. It's an active community. It has a large value for many people. But does the CR work within the community? Is it worthwhile for us to continue working in the community? But not only that, when we evaluate these communities and start engaging with them, we start finding more and more other communities that are maybe relevant, and we repeat. We just go and start seeking the new ones, ranking them, engaging, and then focusing our time on the new communities. So how do we do it exactly? So first of all, we have to have some kind of order. So in a second, we'll share a link, and you can download the CR template that we created for you guys to start working for this workshop. And we'll talk about it more in depth in a second. So I'm going to get out and share the link within. I don't want to move it. Okay, let's see how this works. And great. So start downloading the link. In order to download the link, you have to put your details. It's part of a policy and say that you agree to get an email from us. As we know, CPR and not CPR, the privacy laws that we now have. But if you want, you can unsubscribe immediately, no worries. But it's worthwhile staying subscribed because we're going to send you all kinds of cool stuff. right in the end of the day or tomorrow regarding follow-up on CR and what you can do if you want to continue learning about CR and different things that we teach and help organizations with. So I'm hoping you guys are downloading it. If I would have music, I would continue. But in the meantime, let's just talk about seeking, okay? Feel free, don't worry. I'll talk about it in high level. We're not going to do the seeking part. It wasn't part of the agenda, as you remember. We're going to start with other communities, but just in a high level way so you can start thinking about it. First of all, you need to be very open to brainstorm. We're going to see the brainstorm spreadsheet that you have within your CR template in a second, and we're going to talk about more in depth. But once you start brainstorming, which is something that you usually need to practice a bit together before you start doing it, you need to get inspired. And then when we start brainstorming, ideas really start to flow. There's an amazing saying that I love that says that 53% of all, 53% of every process is starting it. So just starting to brainstorm and starting to fill in your C-app master, your map, that will kick off getting inspired and thinking, oh, I have another idea, as you can see, okay? And then you start searching for more communities with the different keywords that you created and different value that you're looking for. Then you start scoring them, the real basic scoring to understand what are you looking for and what's more or less acceptable or what you can find on what would be the benchmarks you would like. And then you start talking about as a group and you have a lot of new great ideas and you can start brainstorming again. And that's a seeking cycle that, again, every time we do the CR process, we'll continue. And we also have within the template we sent you a template that was the strategy, how we do it step by step, more or less, just the seeking part, that we start with a few communities, even though if we want 100, we start with mapping only 30, and then we start the full circle, and it's not very easy, but we find 100 good communities, and then we start working from them. So when we talk about brainstorming, we start with thinking, okay, what kind of audiences are we looking for? We think in what platforms they are, and then we try to think what kind of interest they have. What you see here is a CR process we did for a digital online attorney company, a very big startup that's Roman Abramovich, if you could remember, the owner of Chelsea, invested in, and they're really using the CR, and it's really giving them a lot of value. And the idea is, I said, okay, the first thing we bring is for entrepreneurs, we help them open a company for a third or a tenth of the cost of opening a company with a regular lawyer. It's quick, it's easy to understand. So that's the audience we want. And then we understand what they're interested in and what kind of lawyers and what kind of law they need, just to understand what we're looking for, to understand what kinds of communities we want to map. When we start looking for the communities, we're going to get more in-depth and do it in the workshop. But there's two main ways that we really say that you can look for. Everybody knows Google, but I'm not sure that everybody knows that in Google, there's a Google social search. You just use Google social search. You click the platforms that you want to look for, and it cleans out all the results that are not from within a platform. And that's really helpful. It helps you find even though you can find it anyway, because it's so tedious, you want to make it as accurate and as quick as you can. A second way is you can look for community indexes. In our workshop, we give all kinds of community indexes from different countries and how we look for community indexes. But that's a great thing if you want to look for social platforms, for Slack, for WhatsApp, for Telegram indexes. There are many open source websites you can find an index and start looking for different communities straight away that wouldn't show up usually on a Google search. So since we don't have time to start seeking community in these workshops, and we don't have time to start tracking it out, let's start with mapping just 3 communities. Please add 2 or 3 communities that you are involved in as a member, and 1 that you're leading. If you don't have 1 that you're leading, so 3 communities that you're involved in. Okay, let's see how you're doing. Let's see if anybody had a problem with getting it in. Okay, done. Thanks, Amir. Hey guys, I'm waiting for you. If you could go into the chat in the session and just tell me that you downloaded the spreadsheet, that you got it, and that you're ready to move forward. Looking for your engagement. We have 33 attendees. Yeah. Okay, facing history. Lounge Global Education. Okay, community for very cool. Just downloading it now. Matthew, we're gonna wait for you. It's worthwhile to wait a minute or two. Okay, haven't downloaded it. Okay, can't find the link to download. Okay, waiting on the email. Yeah, exactly, Avi. It's in your email. Okay, Matthew got it. Great. So we have a few people that got it, meaning you can get it. Give another minute for people to engage. Got it. Yay! Waiting for the email. Should be quick. You guys are doing really well. Everybody's tech savvy. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Anybody else having issues? John, I got it. Okay, awesome. So she's just filling the form. Oh, you're antivirus. Anti-Semitism. Joking. Still working. Great. We'll work and upload the Google Sheet. Yep. Just write them in your Google Sheet in the master. You can erase the first line. It was just to show you how to that you fill everything up. We left one. In the other page, we left something to show you like a more a fuller example that you can also erase after we finish the session. Okay. Yeah, of course, you can upload it into Google Sheet. We work with it on Google Sheet. We downloaded it especially for you guys to download here. Great. Love giving presents and giving value to people. Let's move forward. Great. So, three communities, people that are really engaged in communities and community leadership. I'm sure it's on the tip of your tongue. It's very easy for you guys to just fill the form and start it up. So what do you do? Okay, from seeking to ranking. If you notice that you have in the right part of the spreadsheet the size of the community. Okay, small and slow, we want to see large and fast. But first of all, we want to understand if it's not relevant, not sure, or an opportunity. Okay, that's how we want to get, and that's more or less how we want to rank. But how do we do that? So first of all, when we do CR and we want to work with the communities, we want to go to the end of the spreadsheet. And in the end of the spreadsheet, okay, it's a good excuse to make you hover over all the parts of the spreadsheet. We have a place that talks about advertising. And you have three examples that you can add. It's either there's nothing about can I advertise or can I post anything within the community. You can have that specifically no advertising and self-promotion allowed. And some communities usually have a specific date that you can't do self-promotion. So it's closed for advertising. And many times you can see different people saying it's paid advertising only if you contact the community leader, or you can see it's an opportunity. You can either do it in specific days, you can either do it in whenever you want, and that's great. But CR isn't just about advertising, but that's one of the first things we want to check out. Before that, an objective value, I want to just go back and fill it up. What we do about when we think about large and fast is it a large community, or what's the size of the community, and what's the size of the community, and what's the amount of engagement. If I take you now to the CR space, okay, it's not open. I'm going to bring it from the other slide on the screen. Just a second. Okay. Okay, everybody can see my screen with the spreadsheet. Okay, great. CMX Community Forward. Great. No, okay, I'm going back to the spreadsheet. Okay, now in this one, I added a few examples just so you can see it. Okay. Let's see, we can see it now. May you zoom in? Yeah, no worries. Let's zoom in. Just a minute. In a room in Greece, in Saloniki, in not my computer. So it might take me a second. Great. I'll just use a regular Zoom. 200%. Great. Okay. So when I zoom in, you can see that there's, okay, that's the original series from CR process that we did. We just left a few examples. Okay. We used two colors because we had two team members, so they would know who did what. White was Shai and blue was Michael. And if they asked to join the community and they were accepted, they marked it as green. If they weren't accepted, they marked it as red. And if they're still waiting for approval, it's marked in orange. And of course, if you haven't got an answer, so you can just, if you didn't apply it and you just mapped it, so just leave it in white. And then you add a number. So when we look at the numbers here, converted into a quality ranking, it's something that we created for the spreadsheet. We have a more or less vague notion of the size. We call it that everything that's under 100 is a 1. It's like almost a very small community, even though it doesn't mean everything. Small communities can be very strong and very interactive, and we'll see how the ranking changes later. Everything that's over, if it's over 1,000, so it's 2. If it's over 10,000, so it's 3. 1,000 is 3. If it's over 10,000, it's 4, and so on and so forth. I think there's a problem in this specific sheet. And here the activity level is you decide, and you in the action plan, in the brainstorming, you start to decide what are you just add here the ranking, and you write for yourself, what do you think is over the amount of posts you see within a month? Facebook is easy to see. In other platforms, it's less easy. It depends on your access to data. But more or less, you don't need to have the accurate number. You need to have more or less the ability to see how it works. And you can evaluate if it's like a really quick community of like over 100, or if it's something that's almost 100, or if it's something that's only 30. And that's more or less how you can see the level of interaction. Okay, and then we get to the real ranking that we're going to go into in a second, which is that's what we call objective ranking. Okay, so if we talked about objective value, which is small and slow, or the amount of people and the amount of speed we rank. So also it's about if you're allowed to do advertising in it or not, if you can post in it, if you can do self-promotion, if it's okay. Even if it's not, it's still something sometimes you can work with and you can do something that's valuable. But if you're here to build some kind of relation for a brand or something, it's sometimes a big no-no, and you have to talk about, and we're going to talk about it in the rules of engagement, how you do it or what you need to think about to do it. Okay, and then we get to subjective value, and that's part of what I really want to go into in this workshop, which is something that after researching over 500 communities in a different project we did, we understood that the most important thing is to think, what is the value that companies get from what is the value that members get? And we understood there's very high level 2 types of value. The value that's very rational, which is a resource and networking and status that you get, and the emotional value. But there's things that are very mixed, things that people are looking for, that they look for fun, or they look to take out things, which is emotional, but sometimes it's very rational, like paying and going for a gig, or to see something funny, or to go for a demonstration. It's something that you believe that you should do. And then it's not just emotional. And we're going to talk about all the examples in a few, in very high level in a second. Okay, and again, like I showed you in the spreadsheet, if you can't join, it's red. If it's pending, it's orange, and if you're in, it's green. Okay, so now let's talk about the CR process. It's about engaging very high level. When we go into engaging, we can engage within. Engaging within means we're active. We create posts. If you look at the spreadsheet, we have the action plan, which talks about more or less how we're going to build and how we're going to map. That's what I told you about the strategy that we built. And then we start thinking about the different things we want to add within, okay? And how we're going to engage. And here we all the time track our engagement, which in the end will become some kind of evaluation, which we didn't add here because it's part of something we did for somebody else. The evaluation of how worthwhile was it good for the company, good for us, good for their members, and if it's not good for one of the sides, so it's not a good place to do community relations with, okay? Very similar to PR. So when we go back, we think about engaging within. So we think, how do we want to engage within? Do we want to create a post? Do we want to go and comment on different posts that are relevant for our brand, interact with them? And also, do we want to engage with? I won't go back to the spreadsheet, but in our content, you'll see that we have all kinds of messages. You can send the admin, hey, I saw your group. It's really great. I would love to think about great ways to interact with your group. And like we said, many times advertising or collaborating is paid, or you have to give something in return, or just it's written clear and simple. Listen, in order to do advertising or publish yourself or self-promotion, please approach the admin and just do so. It's really important. Okay? And then the last part is evaluation. When we talk about evaluation, we think, where is it worthwhile for us to focus the energy? Don't be a pusher. Don't try to push where it's not needed. And you can see it by when you start working with communities. You got the permission, you got the ability to write a post or write things that are relevant for your content and to create some kind of awareness about yourself and about what you're doing or the company that you represent is doing. But you see that there's no interaction, or it's not accepted, and well, no worries, lower the ranking, and we're going to talk about the ranking in a second, and once we talk about the ranking process and the part of the utility process. So again, I want to just go over, we seek, we rank, we engage. The engage helps us evaluate how valuable it is for us, but it also helps us improve our rankings that we're going to talk about in a second, and then we repeat and go back to seek. Okay, let's talk a bit about the utility model, because it's very high level to talk about networking, but let's give a few examples. So when we talk about the rational things, so we talk about information and knowledge. There are many communities that their utility, the reason that people come and join them, is information and knowledge. You can see it in professional places, in professional communities. You know, there's such a diverse audience here from all over the world, so I won't get to examples. But when you find communities that the main thing is information, sharing of articles, sharing of ideas, okay? That's the kind of utility you can think. And why is it very relevant? Because you can think about, okay, here in this community, the content I want to create is information and knowledge. The second type is resources. Many times we think, okay, everybody wants a resource, everybody wants a discount, but it's not true. But if it is what they want, great. So that's what you need to give that community, and you need to rank it. And then you know, by the way, that if a company is recipient and they like to get resources, it gets a higher ranking in the utility model in resources. The higher the ranking in all the utilities, the more they want stuff, the more you're likely to be available to provide them value. The third value is networking. Okay, many communities, I think it's maybe one of the strongest, that and knowledge sharing many times, you know, the connections. And when you want to have networking, it's one thing, it doesn't mean you're a very strong community, but still many groups that consider themselves a community, or groups that we consider as a place that's a community or an organization, and we're not here today about talking about the definition of a group, a network, a community. But many times networking is the value that you're looking for. Again, it will also see that if we see that it's a very strong community, that they're looking for networking, they're looking for value, higher ranking, higher probability that we will be engaged in the community, and we know how to engage with it. And the fourth one is status. We see those communities that it's a very strong status to be part of them. And when it's a strong status to be part of them, when people work for something, they evaluate it more, they evaluate it more, and they want to be part of it. And so it gets also a higher ranking. The four more emotional parts is emotional support, We have a sense of belonging when people want to be part of the community, which again, everybody knows, communities that have that emotional support, belonging, helping with your self-esteem and helping with you fulfill your dreams and self-fulfillment, that are very, very strong communities that get a high ranking. And also there's all kinds of what we call joker moves that we look at. If they're funny, that you can help and add in your different ranking or affect the ranking. If it's a place that really allows you to be yourself and be very authentic and share what's hard for you. And that's all part of also ranking, but also knowing before you start this third part of engaging, what are you going to engage about? What are you going to talk about within the community? And it helps you create clear vision when you get back to 100 communities and you already chose, okay, I don't remember what I did with this community. What should I talk about? What kind of relevant content should I create for that community? And what is so important to understand the utility model? So again, yes, of course, we said, first of all, we want to choose it. Second, we want to also understand what kind of content and engagement we want to do it. But when we separate them both and we see these are things as community professionals, and that's an extra tip outside the presentation here, is these are the stuff that bring communities. If these are the stuff that we can see strong, we can usually see communities that either would grow in numbers, and if they're closed communities, what we call intimate communities up to 500 people, the engagement will become stronger and stronger and stronger. The emotional part is what will create the community will be stronger and more likely to trust within the community, more likely to react when something is posted, more likely to be connected to this community. So, but the thing is, people, because it's so more powerful, the emotional utility on our lives, because it's so rare to find a place that really helps you and improves your self-esteem and fulfillment. Networking, knowledge, we can find everywhere around the web. The real power of community is the emotional utility. But most of us community managers do the mistake of thinking about, okay, we should tell about all the emotional value we create. But no, bring people to our community, and what creates the bigger interaction in the beginning and bringing new members is rational utility. And when we do relations outside, many times it's really important to see what's the rational utility our community gives, and also the emotional, and also what we call the joker moves that creates a really strong engagement. In the joker moves, we always, in Israel, we talk about two communities that are larger communities for fathers and mothers, and both of them are all about laughter and jokes about themselves. So having strong joker moves gives a higher ranking, and should use that when you had extra points for ranking on the community you look at. So now let's do an exercise and start ranking our communities. Go to your spreadsheet and think about the communities that you're working on, and I'll get out and go back to just the high level view of all the rankings. Okay, and try to rank what does the community that you're a part of give you. From 1 to 7, does it give you a lot of knowledge? Does it give you a lot of access to resources? Does it give you a lot of access to networking? Maybe does it help you with your status, and you know that that's a strong community? And again, with your emotional parts, is it a community that helps emotional support? Do people there have a very strong, what we call PLM? They feel people like me, very strong belonging. These are interactions that affect the amount of value people feel or trust they feel, more likelihood to trust what's happening within the community. Again, very important for the average of ranking we create. Okay, we're not going to touch all the ranking points today, but these are high levels. So let's see how you guys doing. Okay. Thank you, Eli. Hey, Omer. Okay, I'm in the brainstorming tab. Okay. Okay, a sense of belonging is super important. Okay. I totally agree. A sense of belonging is super important, and that's exactly what we try to do. We try to see the different things that show that maybe it's not a value that we can interact with, but it increases the value of the community because we know it's what keeps people in it, what's increased the trust. I'm not going to talk about the community peaks, which is one of our strategic model that we built, about 5 community peaks, but it's really important to see the emotional activities when you check out communities. So we want to rank also the value that we see that we can also, as new members, as outsiders, that really start before we build our trust, that we can create value fast. I remind you guys, being in the CR field realm is when we say, okay, the client here or the people we're working for aren't ready for real investment in building their own community. They want to see quick results. We want to see what kind of 4 types of values we can create quick value with for the community and interact with. Okay, great. Can I just have a few attendees respond, see if you're with me, if you're ranking it? Anybody finished their first community about ranking? I know it takes a while, but I lost a lot of time and I have to keep it really short. And okay, everybody's in the ranking or listening. Great. Yes, done. Thank you, Jonah. Okay, I'm family in. Okay, missed the first part. Amy, I'm sorry. Got one. Great. Okay, Matthew. Anybody else engaged? Finished one? Okay, here. Yes. I like this, and looking over all will take some to fill. Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's a real good value we can give, and you all professionals can give to your customers, because it's time consuming. But anyway, CR was part of what we did when we started our strategy. When we start our strategy, we want to learn about the community landscape. When we start working with our customers, before we say, hey, let's open an X community or a Y community, we have to understand the landscape. So doing CR is actually part of a strategic process. It's part of engaging learning. And even if we don't get amazing engagement results, amazing value for our customers in the beginning, we have a lot of insight that when we'll talk later, if you join the other workshop, sorry, I don't mean to be silly, I don't have time to talk about everything, but there is ways to understand the value of it and see how we can move on. And I would really love to engage with you guys more, but I got only 1 hour in this workshop, so I'll have to ask for your forgiveness and move on the next things. Okay? Exactly, and what you need to grow, exactly. Thank you, Ilana. Let's move forward. Okay. Okay, engaging communities. So now I'm going to talk about the god of marketing. I think the father of community marketing in many ways. Wrote over 19 books. If you don't know him, shame on you, Seth Godin. Okay? I'm going to talk in a very high level about the 3 books, because I think most of his books have, Tribes has one main issue, but permission marketing has 3 main ideas. All marketers are liars or tell stories as about 6 ideas, but more or less, they have one strong idea that's really important to remember about the rules of engagement when you start engaging with the communities. We don't want to be that guy, that gorilla that's like a troll and goes into those communities and creates a bad name for your brand. You might get results, you might get a few leads, but in the end, people that are community builders, people that are community professionals are playing the long game. So first of all, which, what's good about, the books of Seth Godin, the name speaks for themselves, permission marketing, okay? When you start about permission marketing, first of all, ask for permission. Think about what's the rules of engagement within the community. Again, look about the about. If you're working on a social network like Facebook or LinkedIn, look at the about. Look about the thing. See what's okay to do. Okay, don't be that guy. I have 3 ideas, but I don't want to push it. I think it talks for himself. So first of all, ask for permission. Think what's relevant for the community. Okay. All marketers are storytellers, are liars. Again, here he talks about something that's compelling, okay? When you tell a story, it has to be true, okay? When you're engaged and you do community relations, again, of course, you can tell it in a compelling way. You can tell about the future. You can tell about what you think your brand is going to do. You can tell a story about the vision you want to create. It doesn't have to be something that's already happening, but be truthful. Come with real meaning, and if it's something that you can't really deliver on, or at least you don't believe that you can deliver on, be very careful, okay? Don't be a liar. Be somebody that creates a story that people that can really create value and can really create a future from. Okay. Third part is tribes. And Tribes was a book I read when I was actually in what we call the Contra Burn, which is happening exactly in the opposite time of the Burning Man. And it happens in a beach. And I took the book and read it all. And it's funny because when I think about Tribes, I think exactly about Burning Man. It's all about, understanding social media in a tribal way, about people having rules and getting together to do amazing and great things. And when you get together to do great things, you have to remember, in order to work together, we have to have understandings about our principles and what we want to do. So look about and what's our PLM? What's people like me? What are the people within this community have in common? Think about what's their commonality. Beside what's the utility they need, what's their commonality? What's their interest? What's the spec through which you want to drive ideas? We are the people that are leading the tribe. Think about it in a tribal way. They want to talk to the tribe leader and work with him. Okay? And look at the principles. What I love about Burning Man, that they distilled the whole idea of Burning Man into 10 principles that really create the community that when you come in, you know how you need to act. So it's more than acting permission. It's looking at the written rules and the non-written rules of the tribe, of the community, of the group, of the network, wherever you decide to interact and build your relations for the long run. Okay, so now go to the engagement part where you already have stuff and you can erase or put that, and think about how would you engage with the community? What would be valuable for them? Okay, what would be in the core of their needs and desires? Okay, think about the two communities that you're involved in, or if you want, think about in your own community. This can be a great exercise for you guys as community leaders to empower yourselves about thinking, okay, maybe me myself need to get more value from my community and my members, and through the utility model, I can think how I can do that. Okay, since I have only 2 minutes, I'm going to talk about CR ethics. Okay. So, as Spider-Man's uncle said, with great power comes great responsibility. Don't forget the rules of engagement, okay? Ask for permission, do no harm, okay? That's my way of calling don't be a liar, do no harm, and respect the tribe. Respect its rules, its unwritten rules, okay? I know guerrilla marketing is also about being eccentric, but sometimes people see it as becoming pushy, as doing things without knowing. Yeah, there's a very great area, and it's a thing we discuss in our workshop, and I think it's super important to discuss, because when we think about it, many times we're that guy, the person that really creates some kind of bad environment, and it's not only doesn't create the value you want, it creates the counter effect that you want. And it's really worth thinking about it, because when we think about it out loud, because we come with good intentions and the road to hell is paved with good intentions, it's really hard to think about your CR ethics and what's your ethics and what you build it for yourself. And also, when you think about CR ethics, when you work with your client, or again, in general, when you want to build communities, don't force it. Thinking about first of all, being the change you want to see in the world. When I started working with community, I thought the most important thing I maybe should teach people not to be community leaders, but to be better members. And that's what you do with CR. Suddenly you get the opportunity to go in the backseat and be a community member and see it from another space. Okay, don't force being a leader. You can be sometimes the member and, be within and try to understand how to work within, and try to be the change you want to see in the world also as a member. And again, don't fight it. Don't fight the organization and try to force it to build a community. Try to really come within and show what's the value of community. And slowly, when you continue showing the value, continue showing the value, in the end, I'm sure you'll find also the way to pitch what you want to do and the community you want to create, that you want to lead, that you want to build in the future. So that's it. Ready, set, go. Go find those potential communities to engage, to build amazing bridges and relations with. I was Mike. These are a few topics that we're going to talk about when we do the real full workshop. Okay. It's all about also the more in-depth of seeking communities. We're going to go through the different parts of how we retrieve the valuable insights. Okay, we're going to do it together. We're going to do different seeking, and we're going to do your own ethics. We're going to leave it when you know what's your goals, what you want to do, what's your do's and don'ts, and how are you going to really change the environment that you live in, and how you want to create value for yourself and set the ground for even empowering your existing community or your future community you want to build. So that's me. Thank you so much, CMX 2000. It's a dream come true for me. And great. I know I don't have time for Q&A. The community puzzle, by the way, is something we do. That's how we build communities, our method. And that's it in very high level. Great. Michal Goldner. Great, Jonah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I hope you had a great workshop. Thank you, guys. Let's continue being engaged. I'm staying here until they kick me out. So you can start asking Q&A until they close the session. Don't know what's happening. Who is Mike? Mike is a community fanatic. I believe that communities really can change the world. I think it's a buzzword. It became a buzzword, and we have to understand how we can really explain businesses more than anyone, because I think nonprofits understand communities. I think countries understand communities. We work with government and nonprofits, but I think that if we go and start working with businesses that were the most involved in our lives, if we start affecting businesses to build communities or be involved in communities, they'll have to learn the CR ethics. They'll have to think about asking permission, about thinking about the long run, and not just pitching and selling and marketing. And that's exactly that. Instead of fighting, also want to think about not fighting. Yes, of course, we have YCP and Danny, which is here, Danny White. Just send us an email when join. We're opening a US community too. It's called YCP, Young Community Professionals. And if not, just look for the ISCL network. Everybody that just, if you didn't go, I'll do the template again. You can download the template of CR and you'll get into our mailing list. And when we open the US one, you can get in and join. Thank you, Lital. Lital is part of our core member in YCP, was part of our workshops, and since then a fanatic, which is like me, and I'm grateful for anybody that's part of the cause. And I think that if we'll really not fight them and not fight them, the organization said we want marketing and we want results, say, okay, great, we're going to bring you results, we're going to help you bring quick results. Then slowly they'll start listening to us and let us build our own communities. Okay, Knowledge Integration Service Foundation is just about to open doors for joiners. Great, thank you, Barry. Very cool. Any other questions or things you want to ask? Okay, Mike, that's me. That's the speaker. Thank you, Barry. Great. Feels like it's slowing down here. Sophie, do you want to pitch in? Anybody wants to add anything? Okay, we live to serve. We're community leaders. Create value for others. Anything else? Okay, guys. So I'm waiting until I'm signed off. Sorry, I had to run really quickly on the workshop, but the show must go on. Sophie, thank you so much again. Just tell me how we want to end this session, or you're going to end this session. I'm going to be here, and thank you, Mirav. Great. Great. So I'm going to leave the session and say goodbye. Bye, guys. Enjoy it.